Recently, there's been a lot of talk about the effectiveness of bows and how they operate in the Crucible. I hear it from plenty of streamers and I've seen a lot of complaints about them on Twitter. In this video, I'd like to defend the bows and try to convince you, the viewer, and maybe Bungie, that they should really think about how bows impact the current PvP sandbox and their purpose in the Crucible. There are a lot of things I want to talk about, so I'll list the topics here and before we go in. I'll leave the timestamps in YouTube if you want to skip through a certain part, but I implore you to at least watch the whole thing at least once. I'll start with where bows are now in the Crucible and how they're used compared to other weapon types. I'll move into the many ways that gameplay and abilities can counteract bow playstyles, and then I'll move into specifically countering bow loadouts. After that, I'll briefly talk about exotic bows and possible nerfs for them, and then at the end, I will talk about streamers and influencers and what their impact on the community has in regards to bows. I've gone over this before in some of my previous bow videos, but I'll go over it again. There are two types of bows, precision and lightweight. Lightweight bows aren't used as much, mostly because they don't really do as much damage. Lightweights have great handling, reload, and you move faster when you use them, at the cost of lower accuracy and lower damage. I don't often see people use these things, but they exist. When fully drawn, lightweights do 86 damage to the body and 137 damage to the head. What people are mostly complaining about are the precision frames. These bows have a slower draw time, lower handling, and reload speed in exchange for higher accuracy and damage. When fully drawn, these bows do about 101 damage to the body and 152 damage on a headshot. Bows are unique in the sense that they're susceptible to user error. Besides missing a shot, if a player doesn't give the bow all the time needed to draw the bow, they will do less damage and have a lower velocity on their arrows. Okay, with the basics out of the way, let's get more in depth about bows. Bows operate the best in about the same area as pulse rifles. They're great to use at long and medium ranges, but certainly feel better using them within 40 meters. Most bow players will use the scout rifles if the scout player is in the back of the map hitting shots. Bow players will often dual hand cannons, auto rifles, pulse rifles, snipers, and linear fusion rifles because they occupy similar ranges on the maps. Bows are effective at dealing high amounts of damage in a single shot. That is their job. They're similar to 120 hand cannons and high impact pulse rifles. All of them do big damage, they're slow firing, and they try to go for precision shots. I'd like to start by comparing bows to these weapons, of course. All of these weapons do the same thing. High amounts of damage, so the enemy has to run to cover or land all of their shots in a duel. The difference, I think, is the playstyle. Hand cannons and pulse rifle players can stay in the fight and do their damage. They have to actively engage in a duel. A bow player does not, and there are advantages and a lot of disadvantages that come with that. With a pulse or hand cannon actively engaging in a duel, you know where the opponent is visually. You know when they dive for cover, and you know how much damage you've done when it takes to clean them up. With a bow, once that arrow is fired, it's important for the bow player to get to cover in order to reload and draw so it can fire again. Basically what I'm describing is peek shooting. Of course, you can peek shoot with hand cannons and pulse rifles, but for a bow, it is imperative. There's no need to sit there in the open and draw your bow while you take shots from your opponent. When a bow player gets caught in a duel with no cover, it's basically over for them. Drawing and landing 2 shots in the time it takes for a 140 hand cannon, an SMG, a pulse rifle, or literally anything will kill you. The best a bow player can hope for is to strafe and hope the opponent misses shots so that you can at least trade kills. An archer with no cover is basically a dead one. I hear this point a lot. Bows do too much damage and keep a player pinned down for too long, almost infinitely because of their ammo. First of all, yeah, that's what they do. But that's also what other high-impact weapons do. If another player takes 2 shots from a 120 hand cannon, it would be in their best interest to take some cover. The same goes for a high-impact pulse rifle. One pull from the trigger, from a messenger, should send any player straight to cover, especially if the opposing player has a head-seeker roll. In the sense that bows do too much damage and are supposed to keep a target hiding in cover, there are a bunch of other primary weapons that do this too. Snipers and linear fusion rifles do this as well, with the threat of instantly killing you with a headshot or dealing high body damage. In game modes like Control and Clash, this can be kind of annoying because the enemy is often receiving damage from a bunch of different sources, and taking a body shot from a hand cannon will leave you at a possible one hit from a precision bow headshot. In game modes like Comp and Trials of Osiris, it's different. Lives matter, and securing a kill is more important than making them run away because they took damage. Getting kills wins rounds. Damage doesn't mean anything if the enemy recovers and kills the bow player later. If you want to blame a bow for getting insta-killed in a team shooting scenario, I'm going to need you to recognize that the same thing would have happened if it was a pulse rifle or a 120. Blame team shooting, not the weapon. Alright, a quick review of this section. In my opinion, bows are similar to other high-impact weapons. relying on high damage and accuracy to secure kills. Bows, by themselves, do not duel very well. That's a very specific point that I will also touch on later in the loadout section. Lastly, their job is to make you run for cover, and that is significant. They can't outright kill you unless they have some sort of outside damage buff going on. Abilities. Everyone has them in Destiny 2, and boy do we like to spam them. Against bows, they're great, so let's talk about things that counteract bow stuff, and really most things in Destiny. I will say that most of the stuff I'm about to put down here works against other players and not just bow players. Let's start with resilience. Not even really an ability, but it can help you survive bow shots. Having high resilience lets you sometimes survive the 2 body shots from a precision bow. Bow players are people, and just like normal people, we're not perfect all the time. Sometimes a bow player won't have the time to fully draw their bow, and they will end up doing less damage or maybe even completely missing the shot. Having high recovery also helps you get back in the fight after taking a shot from a bow, allowing a player to get back in the fight and take out that pesky archer. Mobility, or really any movement option, whether that be an Icarus dash, dodges, backrest, Titan dodge, and any other type of movement, helps a player get to cover faster, or possibly just dodge an arrow entirely. Having higher mobility means you get to cover faster, so it's a good thing to have. Okay. Finally, abilities. Let's talk about them. There are a lot of ways to heal, get overshield, and gain damage resistance in the Crucible. There are a lot of abilities that help you with this, and there are also a bunch of exotics that help with this too. Titans have Barricade, and popping a Barricade against a bow player is especially great because using a bow on a Barricade sucks. The time it takes to shoot each individual arrow at a Barricade to break it is simply not worth it. You're better off finding a way around it or getting teammates to help you take it down. Overshield. While we're on the topic of Barricades, Void Titans grant Overshield when casting a Barricade and giving Overshield to your teammates. People will definitely survive the 2-shot body shot from a bow when you have Overshield. I also think you can survive a headshot and a body shot, but I'm not exactly sure on the numbers on that. Healing. There's so much healing in this game, from rifts to healing grenades, worm husks, crest of alpha loopy, and probably a bunch of other stuff I'm forgetting. Get to cover, pop some healing, and take down the pesky archer on the other team. Damage resistant. Strand Hunters and their new exotic helmet lets them gain woven mail and take reduced damage. It's pretty useful. Warlocks have Point of the Stagger for more damage resistance and a rift, and Titans can reflect stuff with Antaeus wards, which I know is actively being nerfed at the time of this video, but I also don't play too much Titan, and I'm not sure if there's other damage resistant stuff out there, so yeah. I'm sure Titans can also do cool damage resist stuff too. You can also let me know in the comments if you know more about that than I do, because you probably do. I mentioned earlier that bow players are very good at peek shooting with their weapon. If one refuses to get out of cover and start fighting you like a real Destiny 2 player, then I highly recommend you throw something at them. Trip mines and lightning grenades are good at hitting people from behind cover, but placing a grenade at their feet where they were peeking from isn't a bad idea either. Area of effect grenades like the solar grenade will definitely stop a bow player from peeking and force them out of cover, giving you the advantage in a fight. Alright, so the idea for this part was that there are a lot of abilities to counteract the effectiveness of 2-tapping with a bow. Most of these tactics can also be deployed against other players, so really it just means that everybody has to either land more shots to secure the kill or just kill them instantly with a special weapon and team shooting. Either way, bows are less effective when abilities are in use. Alright, the loadout part. I've seen a few pairings with bows that seem to be the best combinations in the Crucible. Most people will pair a bow with a hand cannon, a shotgun, or a sidearm, or an SMG. There's a certain philosophy that comes with using a bow. The gameplay ends up being you shoot your target with the bow to get them weak, and then you swap to your other weapon to clean them up. This is known as hot swapping or blinting, a tactic long used in Halo with a charged plasma pistol and swapping to some sort of precision weapon. You could do this with the snipers and probably a bunch of other weapons that I'm forgetting that exist in Halo, but let's get back to Destiny. A loadout that I will see a lot is using Wishender, a bow that you can see through walls with, and Igneous Hammer. It doesn't have to be Igneous Hammer, you could use any Energy 120, but Igneous just so happens to be the best one. Getting a headshot with Wishender allows the 120 hand cannon to body shot the player for a very quick time to kill. It works well because the bow allows you to see the enemy through walls and track their movement. It's possible to then grind for a very high handling 120 so that you can swap to that weapon faster and body shot them. This is also a very high risk, high reward playstyle. If that bow shot isn't a headshot, you need to land at least one headshot and another body shot with the weapon. To counter this playstyle, I highly recommend getting in close. Using a shotgun and finding a way to close the gap is the best way to defeat these players. The only thing that they have to defend themselves at close range is their abilities and their 120 hand cannon. SMGs, sidearms, shotgun, all of these weapons excel at closer ranges and will quickly eliminate your archer problem. Don't forget that the Wish Ender can also track your movements, so using your movement abilities to get around, up, and over the archer is the best way to get in close and secure that kill. Now, if they decide to pair their bow with a shotgun, they've got their close range covered and they can do high damage from afar. It's kind of this build I recommend. Confidence. Be confident, Guardian, you got this. But also you should be confident in your dueling capabilities. Weapons like a high impact pulse, 120 hand cannon, and even a precision auto rifle will still do a lot of damage quickly enough to put some real hurt on an enemy bow player. Challenging this player with a sniper is also incredibly effective. Just a little side note here, snipers will almost always have the advantage on bow players at first. Snipers can kill in one shot, right? And bows cannot unless they've got some crazy damage buffs going. The strategy a player should deploy against this loadout is to find a way to duel them without cover. Getting around whatever cover they're hiding from, or forcing them out into the open, will leave them at a complete disadvantage and should allow for a quick cleanup kill. Next is pairing a bow with a sidearm or SMG. These players have the ability to duel at medium to close ranges. The same philosophy of shooting with a bow and swapping to their weapon, but sidearms and SMGs are particularly good at closing the gap. Getting up close with a sidearm and SMG is a lot easier to secure a kill with than a 120. Be aware that these players might chase you down when you go to cover. These players really enjoy the adaptability of their loadouts. You can be as aggressive or as passive whenever you want. The best strategy against this playstyle depends on how patient the enemy archer is. If the enemy likes to be aggressive after landing a shot, playing passive and using stasis is a great strategy. Wait for them to make a mistake on a push and counter accordingly. Stasis is also wonderful for slowing or stopping aggressive pushes. Slowing these players down leaves them out in the open and force them to swap to their weapon, and also they're out in the open, which means you're just going to win a duel anyways. It's also possible to be extra aggressive and push these players, because they don't have a shotgun to kill you with. Slug shotguns, especially Chaperone, work around the same ranges as sidearms. Challenging these players at close range is a good tactic. Just be prepared for them to backpedal when they recognize your aggressive pushes. Alright, to recap, we covered what to do against some popular bow loadouts. Playing aggressive against players who don't use a shotgun is effective, and being confident in your ability to outduel a bow. Remember to take cover and use your abilities to force them out of cover. Snipers are more effective than bows. You can secure the kill, and don't ego peek a bow after you've been bodied. Just a small thing here, I figured I'd put this in after all this stuff. If you run out of sniper ammo and you want to still fight long range, you can always just swap to a bow. This is more of a tip for trials, but if you find cover and you run out of your sniper ammo, you can just swap to a bow and you still have long range damage. Just remember that you should swap back to your sniper once the round begins. Alright, let's talk about some exotic bows. The two best exotic bows to use in the Crucible are none other than Le Monarque and Wish Ender. Bungie already decided to nerf Le Monarque by changing it from a precision bow to basically a lightweight. I think you could use a bit more of a nerf. Change to make Le Monarque a lightweight bow was an interesting decision on Bungie's part, because they clearly don't want to put this thing in the gutter. But I think reducing the reload speed would be a good nerf to this thing. It applies poison quickly already, thanks to it being a lightweight and having a quick draw time, and I think the follow-up shot could be a lot slower. This change would still make it a great bow to use in PvP. Wish Ender gets to see through walls and pierce through targets. Now, I didn't spend any time to see if the piercing thing does more damage than a regular bow, but I feel like it does. This bow already has pretty low handling and reload, but nerfing the swap to this weapon specifically would be significant. This bow already tracks players through walls, and nerfing the handling on this would make swapping to a 120 a lot harder to do. The alternative is that they reduce the handling on 120 hand cannons, and I'm not sure people will be too excited about that. Now, I know I have zero influence on the Destiny community as a whole, so I would also like to make a wish list of when Bungie decides to nerf these things because of people complaining. I really hope they don't, because I think bows are in a great spot and can be countered quite easily with just a little bit of brain power. Regardless, this is what I would hope to see nerfed on a bow if they were to nerf it. Bows by themselves can't secure kills as quickly or as fast as other weapons shoot, in my opinion. That's why bow players often swap to something else. In that sense, a nerf to bow handling would effectively kill my whole flow. Bows have already taken a hit to their handling. In order to effectively bow swap, players already have to utilize handling exotics and double dexterity perks in order to consistently win duels. A reload nerf wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It would slow down the second shot of the bow player. Once the archer shoots their one arrow, they have to reload and draw before they can fire again. This would be annoying, and it wouldn't really solve the issue that people are complaining about. Some people I've heard want bows to be special weapons, but I think that is absolutely silly. Not only would this be super lame in PvP, but it would completely destroy bows in PvE, and Bungie loves their PvE. A damage nerf to precision damage would be unfortunate and probably the biggest blow to bow swapping. Lowering the precision damage by even 5 or 10 damage would require hitting more shots with the swapped weapon, or forcing the player to hit more precision shots. With a sidearm, that would be terrible and probably force more players to use SMGs, which I don't think Bungie wants people to do on this current sandbox. Instead, maybe a nerf to bow body shot damage, but keeping the 150-ish precision damage. Bringing the body shot damage to around 95 or even 90, but keeping the high precision damage would keep the precision bow from 2-tapping to the body and still allow the bows to be usable. Out of all the possible nerfs, I think this would be the best one. In the recent TWID, Bungie decided to nerf body shot damage on snipers because they're so oppressive. A body shot nerf to precision bows would make sense, but only precision bows. A nerf to lightweight frame body shot damage would almost make them useless in PvP. Finally, I want to talk about streamers and content creators. Hopefully my video reaches a majority of the Destiny community and I can have a conversation with some of these people so we can talk about bows, their playstyle and purpose in the sandbox, and many other things. Many of the big names like Frostbolt and Grenadier Jake have a large influence on their community. This weekend of Trials has been especially noticeable in the complaints about bows. As of the day I'm writing and editing this video, bows are the third weapon connecting kills in Trials, beating out only sidearms, scout rifles, and that's about it. Pulse rifles, SMGs, auto rifles, and hand cannons beat them by a significant amount. I would just like to remind them that what they complain about, others will too. I know Bungie doesn't nerf things all the time because the community groans about something, but it certainly piques their interest and gets them looking at it. It's not only these two guys either. I don't want them to think that I'm blaming them because I'm not. I'm really not. It's a lot of people. And I'm a big fan of all of these content creators and what they make and what they do, and I watch all their stuff. But I think it stems from not playing with bows enough and only being on the receiving end of it. So instead of complaining about it, try it out. See what you think, and if you really want to, I'm happy to discuss bows basically anywhere on Twitter, Twitch, my YouTube comments, anywhere I post bow stuff. Okay, this was a big script and probably an even bigger video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know in my last video I said I would be posting more consistently, but life stuff happens. So yeah, life stuff happens. But I'll try to post a little more than I have been, and maybe not just Destiny stuff. Maybe I'll try to do some other things out there. But that's basically the end of the video. Again, thank you so much for watching. Links to all my socials are down below. Try to bow in Destiny, and make sure it's a precision bow, because those are the best ones, in my opinion. Yeah, okay, yeah, have a great day. Have an awesome day. Have the best day ever. Make it so good that you feel like you have to go out and get some chocolate peanut butter ice cream. Or maybe a cheesecake. I like cheesecake. Cheesecake is great. Or you could, I don't know, buy a Lego set. Lego sets are great. I think there's a Venerator one. That one could be kind of cool. I haven't tried that. I want to buy that, but also it's very expensive. I might get that for Christmas. That might be kind of cool. Yeah, I should look at Legos after this. I really want to play some Legos. I'm gonna go play some Legos while I edit this thing, or maybe while it uploads. I can't. Well, not while I'm editing. Yeah, probably while it uploads. That'll be cool. Okay. Are you guys still here? You guys still watching this video? What? That's crazy. I'm just trying to hit the 20-minute mark at this point. But thank you for sticking around. Why don't you, since you're here, you know, waiting at the end of this video, go put in the comments what your favorite Lego set is, or what Lego sets you want, because I need to know what's out and about. So there you go. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.